The longer we hold on, the more we lose ourselves in what was, instead of living in what is. Have you ever stopped to wonder, why does holding on hurt so deeply, while letting go feels like the harder choice? The truth is, the pain doesn't come from what we've lost, it comes from the fight to keep it alive. We cling to memories, relationships, and dreams because they feel like pieces of who we are. But what if, instead of preserving us, they're quietly breaking us apart? Holding on creates a weight that steals your joy, drains your energy, and keeps you trapped in a loop of what once was. Letting go, though frightening, is the only way to break free from this invisible trap. It's not about forgetting the past, it's about releasing its grip on your present. It's about making space for clarity, peace, and renewal to enter your life. When you hold on, you don't just lose time, you lose yourself. And that's why the act of letting go isn't about loss, it's a reclamation. In choosing to release what no longer serves you, you open the door to rediscovering who you are and what truly matters. The illusion of ownership is one of the most subtle and painful traps we fall into. Sometimes we hold on to people, relationships, or even an idea of ourselves, as if by gripping tightly enough, we can make them stay exactly as they are. We convince ourselves that if we keep something close, label it as mine, we'll feel secure, protected. But deep down, you might already know that nothing in life is truly yours to own. People, moments, and even your own sense of self are constantly changing, slipping through your fingers no matter how tightly you hold on. Think about it. How many times have you clung to something, not because it still served you, but because letting go felt like giving up? It's not your fault. We're taught from an early age that happiness comes from holding on to things. A dream job, the perfect relationship, or even a certain image of who we think we should be. And yet, when these things start to shift or slip away, the pain feels unbearable. Not just because they're gone, but because it shatters the idea that we ever had control in the first place. It's in that moment you realize, the tighter you hold on, the heavier it feels. This shows up so clearly in our relationships. Sometimes we love someone so much that we mistake that love for ownership. When they change, grow, or even move away from us, it feels like we're losing a part of ourselves. But were they ever truly ours? People are never meant to be possessed. They are meant to be shared with, to connect with, for as long as your paths align. When a relationship shifts, it's not a betrayal. It's life reminding you that connection is fluid, not fixed. But when you see it as something that belongs to you, the loss feels personal, almost unbearable. It's not just relationships we cling to. We do it with our identities too. Maybe you've held onto a version of yourself, the achiever, the dependable one, or the one who never gives up, because it feels like who you're supposed to be. But when life forces you to change, when you can't meet that expectation anymore, it can feel like you're losing yourself. That's the trap of the illusion of ownership. You aren't static, and neither is your identity. Clinging to who you think you should be only makes it harder to embrace who you're becoming. And let's be honest, this isn't entirely your fault. Society doesn't make it easy to let go. Everywhere you look, you're told that holding on is strength and letting go is weakness. Don't give up, they say. Hold on tighter. But no one talks about how exhausting it is to carry something that no longer fits. No one tells you that letting go doesn't mean you failed. It means you've made room for something better, something true to where you are now. You might have felt this in your own life. Maybe it was a job you stayed in long after it brought you joy because walking away felt too scary. Or a relationship that no longer nurtured you, but the thought of letting it go felt like tearing a part of yourself away. Perhaps it's an old dream you once had, but now the pursuit of it only leaves you tired. These moments aren't failures. They're reminders that holding on too tightly often comes at the expense of your own peace. This weight doesn't just live in your mind. Sometimes you can feel it in your body, the tension in your shoulders, the heaviness in your chest, the restless energy that won't let you sleep. It's not the loss itself that creates this weight. It's the constant struggle to keep what was never meant to stay. And the more you fight to hold on, the further you drift from the freedom you deserve. When you let yourself believe in the illusion of ownership, it's easy to feel trapped. But what if you didn't have to? What if you could see life not as something to control, but as something to experience? The truth is, nothing was ever really yours to hold on to. And maybe, just maybe, that's where the beauty lies, in learning how to let life flow through you without needing to grip it so tightly. The fear of emptiness is something we rarely talk about, but it's there, isn't it? Sometimes when you think about letting go of something, whether it's a relationship, a dream, or even an old version of yourself, it's not the act of releasing that terrifies you, it's the question that comes next. What will be left of me? That space, that silence, that unknown can feel so vast, so overwhelming, that holding on starts to seem easier, even if it hurts. We hold on because emptiness feels like a void. It feels like stepping into nothingness, and nothingness can be terrifying. But here's the thing, that fear isn't because emptiness is bad. It's because we've been taught to believe it is. We've been conditioned to fill every corner of our lives with goals, with possessions, with people, so that we never have to face the quiet. But the quiet isn't your enemy. It's where your truth lives. Think about how much we avoid that silence. How often do you fill your days with distractions, keeping yourself busy so you don't have to sit with what's missing? The fear of emptiness doesn't come from the emptiness itself. It comes from the stories we've told ourselves about what it means. We think it means failure. We think it means we've lost something vital. But emptiness isn't the absence of something. It's the presence of possibility. It's the space where something new can grow. Still, it's hard, isn't it? When you've been holding on to something for so long, the thought of letting it go feels like losing a piece of yourself. And maybe that's true, in a way. Maybe you're losing the part of yourself that needed that thing in the first place. But what if that's not a loss? What if it's growth? Sometimes we fear emptiness because it forces us to confront the parts of ourselves we've been avoiding. When you stop holding on to the noise, you're left with just you, your thoughts, your feelings, your truth. And that can feel raw, almost too real. But in that stillness, in that space, there's clarity. You begin to see what's been weighing you down, what no longer belongs, and what you actually need to move forward. This fear shows up in so many ways. Maybe you've stayed in a relationship that wasn't right, because being alone felt scarier than being unhappy. Or maybe you've clung to an old dream, not because it still inspires you, but because letting it go feels like admitting you've failed. But is it really failure? Or is it making room for something more aligned with who you are now? The fear of emptiness also keeps us tied to things that have already ended. We replay old conversations, hold on to belongings that no longer serve us, and cling to routines that feel familiar but no longer bring us joy. It's not because these things are still meaningful. It's because letting them go would mean facing that space they leave behind. And yet, it's only in that space that something new can begin to take shape. What would it feel like to stop fighting the emptiness? To stop seeing it as something to fear and start seeing it as a blank canvas? Yes, it's uncertain. Yes, it's uncomfortable. But it's also full of potential. The fear doesn't go away overnight. But the more you sit with it, the more you begin to see it for what it truly is. An invitation to start again, to create something new. Letting go doesn't mean losing everything. It means trusting that what remains is enough. The quiet isn't empty. It's waiting. and so are you. Sometimes we cling to pain as though it has meaning, as if enduring it proves our strength or worth. Maybe you've done this, held onto a broken relationship, a painful memory, or an old regret, because letting it go feels like admitting defeat. Pain can feel like a constant, something familiar when the rest of life feels uncertain. But holding on to it doesn't heal you. It only keeps the wound open. There's a common belief that pain shapes character, that enduring it somehow makes us better. And yes, pain teaches us, but not when we cling to it beyond its purpose. Sometimes the pain we hold on to isn't a sign of growth, it's a sign that we're afraid. Afraid to let go, to release the struggle, to accept that the chapter is over. Pain becomes a marker of effort, a reminder of how hard we've tried. But does that effort justify staying stuck in something that no longer serves you? You may have felt this in your own life. Perhaps it's the friendship you've outgrown, but leaving feels like disloyalty, or the career that drains you. But stepping away feels like wasting all the years you've invested. You tell yourself the pain is worth it, that it means you're dedicated. But what if holding on to it is no longer serving the life you want to live? Pain can feel like purpose because it demands our attention. It's sharp, present, and impossible to ignore. But what happens when it becomes part of who you are? When you identify so closely with the struggle that you can't imagine yourself without it? This is the trap. Believing that letting go of pain means losing a piece of yourself. The truth is, pain is meant to guide us, not define us. It's a signal, a teacher, but it's not meant to stay. This pattern appears everywhere. Think about guilt, the kind you carry for years, even after you've made amends. It lingers, not because it's useful, but because you've convinced yourself that letting it go would mean you didn't care enough. Or consider regret, which loops in your mind like a broken record, keeping you stuck in what could have been, instead of allowing you to step into what is. The longer you hold on to these emotions, the more they shape your reality, limiting your ability to move forward. Sometimes, holding on to pain feels like staying connected to what you've lost. A relationship ends, and the hurt feels like the last thread tying you to that person. Or a dream fades, and the grief becomes a way of honoring how much it meant to you. But pain isn't the bond you think it is. Letting it go doesn't erase what happened. It simply frees you to live beyond it. When you let go of pain, it doesn't mean you're pretending it didn't matter. It means you're choosing to release its hold on you. You're choosing to step away from the loop of reliving the hurt over and over, and toward a place where that pain no longer controls your choices. It's not forgetting, it's reclaiming your life. This isn't easy. The idea of letting go can feel like a betrayal of everything you've endured. But staying tied to pain only prolongs the suffering. When its work is done, holding on to it only keeps you tethered to a moment that has already passed. You are allowed to release it. You are allowed to move on. Memories are powerful. They shape how we see the world and ourselves. But sometimes they do more than just shape us. They bind us. Maybe you've felt this. A memory creeps in, uninvited, and suddenly you're back in a moment that no longer exists. It's so vivid that it feels real, pulling you away from the present and keeping you anchored to something that's long gone. This is the quiet grip of memories, holding you in the past while life continues to move forward. We don't often realize how much control memories have over us. The good ones can feel like a refuge, a reminder of happiness we fear we'll never find again. The painful ones, on the other hand, act like shadows, following us into every decision we make. But the common thread is the same. They keep us from being fully present. Whether it's nostalgia or regret, memories can become chains, holding us back instead of lifting us up. Think about the memories you hold on to. Perhaps there's one that makes you smile, but it also leaves a lingering ache because you can't recreate it. Or maybe there's a memory of something you wish you had done differently, one that replays in your mind over and over. These aren't just thoughts, they're attachments. They tie you to moments that no longer have a place in your life, but they feel too important to let go. Sometimes we romanticize the past, making it seem better than it really was. We replay moments in our heads, imagining them as perfect, untouched by flaws or pain. But this version of the past isn't the truth. It's a polished version, one that keeps us longing for something we can never return to. By holding on to this idealized memory, we rob ourselves of the chance to find joy in the present. It's as if we've built a shrine to a moment that was never meant to last forever. On the other side of this are the memories we wish we could erase. The arguments, the losses, the mistakes. They linger, haunting us in quiet moments. You might find yourself replaying a decision you made, wishing you could go back and choose differently. But no matter how much you dwell on it, the memory doesn't change. It holds you in place, keeping you tied to a version of yourself you've already outgrown. This is the tricky part about memories. They aren't just a reflection of the past. They're an interpretation. We filter them through our emotions, our fears, and our hopes, often distorting them in the process. The happy ones seem brighter than they were. The painful ones cut deeper than they need to. And when we hold on to these distortions, we lose the ability to see the present for what it truly is. Letting go of the grip of memories doesn't mean forgetting them. It means putting them in their rightful place. Memories are meant to be visited, not lived in. They can remind us of where we've been and what we've learned, but they aren't meant to dictate where we go next. When we stop letting memories define us, we create space to live fully in the moment, untethered by the weight of what was. This doesn't happen overnight. Letting go of memories takes patience and practice. It starts with recognizing their hold over you, acknowledging how often you return to the same thoughts, the same stories. From there, it's about gently guiding yourself back to the present, reminding yourself that while the past is part of your story, it's not the whole book. What would your life look like if you weren't bound by the past? What could you feel, experience, or create if those chains were gone? The memories will always be there, but they don't have to hold you. They can exist as part of who you are, without defining who you will become. Forgiveness is one of the hardest things to give, not because it's complicated, but because it asks us to let go of something we've been holding onto so tightly. Sometimes that something is anger, sometimes it's regret, and sometimes it's the pain of being hurt by someone we trusted. Forgiveness doesn't come naturally when you feel the wound is too deep or the harm too great. But without it, we stay tethered to that hurt, reliving it, carrying it, letting it shape how we move through the world. When you think about forgiveness, what comes to mind? Maybe it feels like letting someone off the hook, like saying what they did no longer matters. But that's not what forgiveness is. It's not about excusing what happened. It's about freeing yourself from the hold it has over you. Forgiveness isn't for them. It's for you. It's the act of releasing the anger and resentment that keep you tied to the past, so you can finally move forward. Anger and pain can feel like armor, can't they? They make you feel protected, like you're holding on to your power. But the truth is, they only weigh you down. When you refuse to forgive, it's not the other person who suffers, it's you. They've moved on, but you're still carrying the weight of what they did, letting it take up space in your mind and your heart. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means deciding that their actions no longer control you. And it's not just about forgiving others. How many times have you held on to guilt for something you said or did? How often have you replayed a moment in your mind, wishing you could take it back? punishing yourself for not knowing better at the time. Self-forgiveness can feel even harder than forgiving someone else because it requires facing your own imperfections. But holding on to guilt doesn't make you a better person. It keeps you stuck in a loop of shame. Forgiving yourself is an act of compassion, an acknowledgement that you're human and still learning. Think about a grudge you've held on to. Maybe it's something small, like a harsh word someone said that you just can't forget. Or maybe it's something bigger, a betrayal that cuts so deeply you still feel it when you think about it. Holding on to that grudge feels like keeping control, but it's really the grudge that's controlling you. It shapes how you see that person, how you trust others, and even how you see yourself. Letting go of it doesn't mean what happened was okay. It means you're choosing to stop letting it define you. Forgiveness also doesn't have to be instant. Sometimes it's a process, a decision you make over and over until it becomes your reality. It's okay to take your time, to feel your feelings fully before you release them. Forgiveness doesn't mean rushing your healing. It means deciding that you deserve peace, even if the other person doesn't deserve your forgiveness. It's about reclaiming your energy and your life from the grip of the past. There's a misconception that forgiveness is a gift you give to someone else, but the truth is, it's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. When you let go of the resentment, the anger, the guilt, you create space for something else, something lighter, something better. You allow yourself to move forward, unburdened by the chains of what was. Forgiveness doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't mean you have to reconcile with the person who hurt you or pretend like everything is fine. It simply means you're no longer willing to carry the pain. You're no longer willing to let it dictate your choices or color your view of the world. Forgiveness is freedom, not for them, but for you. There's a particular kind of heaviness that comes from carrying dreams that no longer align with who we are. Maybe you felt it, the quiet guilt of abandoning a goal you once cherished, or the shame of realizing that something you fought for no longer feels right. Unrealized dreams don't just disappear. They linger, whispering what-ifs and should-haves, weighing on us like unfinished stories we're too afraid to close. We're often told to never give up, to keep pushing no matter what. And so, we cling to these dreams, even when they start to feel more like burdens than aspirations. Maybe it's a career path you set out on years ago, but now you can barely recognize the person who chose it. Or a relationship you believed would last forever, even as it became clear that it wasn't meant to. Letting go of these dreams feels like admitting failure, as if you're giving up on a part of yourself. But is it really failure to let go of something that no longer serves you? Sometimes the hardest part is the story we attach to the dream. You might think, if I let this go, then all the effort I put into it was for nothing. But holding on to a dream that's no longer right doesn't honor your effort, it diminishes it. That effort helped you grow, taught you lessons, and shaped who you are today. Letting go doesn't erase the journey. It allows you to take what you've learned and move towards something new. Have you ever looked back on an old goal and realized that achieving it wouldn't bring you happiness anymore? It's a sobering moment, isn't it? You see how much you've changed, how your priorities have shifted, but there's still a part of you that feels bound to that dream. It's as if letting it go would mean betraying the version of yourself who wanted it so badly. But you're not that person anymore. You're allowed to change, to evolve, to want something different. Unrealized dreams often come with a sense of shame. Maybe it's the dream of a perfect family, a certain kind of success, or a life you imagined for yourself that never came to be. When those dreams don't materialize, it's easy to feel like you failed. Not just yourself, but everyone who believed in you. But the truth is, those dreams weren't wasted. They guided you for a time, gave you purpose, and helped you move forward. Their purpose wasn't to last forever. It was to lead you to where you are now. This weight doesn't just sit in your mind, it finds its way into your body. You might feel it in the pit of your stomach when someone asks, "What happened to that project you were working on?" Or in the ache of your chest when you think about what could have been. Carrying these dreams feels like carrying a constant reminder of what you think you've lost. But what if you haven't lost anything? What if letting go is the first step toward gaining something more meaningful? Letting go of an unrealized dream doesn't mean abandoning the parts of it that mattered to you. It means recognizing that the dream served its purpose. It brought you to this point, but it doesn't have to dictate where you go next. You can honor the dream without being tied to it, just as you can honor who you were without being trapped by who you used to be. Think about the dreams you're still holding on to. Are they dreams that reflect who you are today, or who you were when you first imagined them? Are they dreams that inspire you, or do they feel like weights you can't put down? Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means making room for new dreams, ones that align with the person you've become. The weight of unrealized dreams is heavy, but it's not permanent. You can set it down, piece by piece, and in doing so, you give yourself the freedom to dream again. This time, with the clarity of knowing who you are now. Holding on doesn't just weigh on your mind. It takes up space in your body too. You've likely felt it before, the tension in your shoulders, the heaviness in your chest, or the knot in your stomach that never quite goes away. Emotional pain isn't just an abstract concept. Your body remembers it, carries it, and reacts to it in ways you may not even realize. Holding on to the past doesn't just affect how you feel. It affects how you live, how you move, and how you experience the world. Sometimes you might dismiss these sensations as stress or fatigue, but they're often rooted in something deeper. When you hold on to anger, regret, or grief, your body stores that energy. It shows up in clenched jaws, shallow breaths, and restless nights. You might notice it when a certain memory crosses your mind, triggering a physical reaction that feels almost automatic. That's your body responding to the weight of what you haven't let go. Think about how your body feels when you're carrying emotional tension. Maybe your shoulders are tight, as if you've been bracing yourself for something. Or maybe your back aches, as if the weight of your thoughts is physically pressing down on you. These aren't random sensations, they're signals. Your body is trying to tell you that it's holding on to something, just like your mind is. Have you ever noticed how certain emotions seem to live in specific parts of your body? Anger often sits in the chest, making it hard to breathe. Anxiety curls up in the stomach, creating a persistent ache. Grief can feel like a weight on your back, pulling you down. These aren't just metaphors. Science shows that emotional pain and physical pain are deeply connected, often sharing the same pathways in the brain. This is why releasing emotional burdens can sometimes feel like a physical relief. It's as if your body is finally allowed to exhale. One of the most profound ways the body remembers is through muscle tension. When you hold on to emotional pain, your muscles respond by staying tight, as if they're trying to protect you from further harm. Over time, this chronic tension can lead to discomfort or even pain, affecting how you move and carry yourself. It's as though your body is holding on to the same memories your mind refuses to release. Another way the body holds onto the past is through fatigue. Carrying the weight of unresolved emotions can be exhausting. You might find yourself feeling tired all the time, even after a full night's sleep. This isn't just physical tiredness, it's emotional exhaustion. Your body is using energy to process and hold onto feelings that should have been let go long ago. So, how do you begin to release this physical weight? It starts with awareness. Pay attention to your body. Notice where you feel tension or discomfort, and ask yourself what emotions might be tied to those sensations. Sometimes Simply acknowledging the connection between your feelings and your body is enough to start the process of release. Practices like deep breathing, yoga, or mindful movement can also help. These aren't just exercises, they're ways of reconnecting with your body and giving it permission to let go of the tension it's been holding. Even something as simple as placing your hand on your chest and taking a slow, deep breath can create a sense of relief. It's a small but powerful way to tell your body that it's safe to release what no longer serves it. Your body is always speaking to you, trying to tell you what it needs. When you listen, you might be surprised by what it reveals. The ache in your shoulders isn't just physical. It's the weight of a grudge you've been carrying. The tightness in your chest isn't just stress. It's the pain of holding on to something that's long gone. By letting go, you're not just freeing your mind, you're freeing your body too. Nature has a way of showing us what it means to let go. Every season, the trees release their leaves without hesitation. Rivers flow without clinging to the rocks they pass, and flowers bloom only to fade when their time has come. There's no resistance, no struggle, just a quiet acceptance of the cycles of change. What if we could learn to do the same? What if, like nature, we could embrace the beauty of release? Think about the trees in autumn. They don't hold onto their leaves out of fear of being bare. They let them fall, trusting that spring will bring new growth. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. The trees understand something we often forget. Holding on to what's no longer needed only makes it harder to thrive. By letting go, they make space for renewal. The river offers another lesson. It doesn't stop flowing when it encounters an obstacle. It moves around it, finding a new path. Imagine if a river tried to cling to every rock it touched. It would stop moving, lose its purpose, and stagnate. But by letting go, it stays alive, vibrant, and free. There's a quiet power in its flow, a reminder that moving forward doesn't mean forgetting, it means adapting. Even the soil teaches us about release. When a plant dies, its remains return to the earth, nourishing the ground for what comes next. There's no waste, no clinging to what once was. Nature doesn't see loss as an ending, it sees it as part of a cycle. Each ending feeds a beginning, creating space for something new to grow. What would it look like to live like this? To let go of what's no longer serving you, trusting that something better will take its place. It's not easy. Letting go often feels like losing control, like stepping into the unknown. But nature shows us that the unknown isn't something to fear. It's where growth happens. It's where life continues. In the same way that trees, rivers, and soil embrace change, we can too. Letting go isn't about forgetting or pretending something didn't matter. It's about understanding that everything has its season. Some things are meant to stay with us, and others are meant to pass through. Holding on too tightly only blocks the natural flow of life, making it harder to receive what's waiting for us. The next time you feel afraid to let go, look to nature for guidance. Watch how the wind moves through the trees, how the waves return to the shore without hesitation. There's a rhythm to it all, a trust in the process. You don't have to force it. Just like nature, you can let go in your own time, allowing the cycles of your life to unfold naturally. Nature teaches us that letting go isn't an act of weakness, it's an act of trust. Trust that, like the trees, you'll bloom again. Trust that, like the river, you'll find your way. Trust that, like the soil, every ending holds the seed of a new beginning. Letting go isn't about loss, it's about freedom. It's about choosing to set down the weight of what no longer serves you, so you can move forward with clarity and peace. Each chapter of this journey has explored a different aspect of holding on. The illusions, the fears, the memories, and the physical toll. And through it all, one truth remains clear. The act of release isn't a weakness, It's a reclamation of your life. When you hold on too tightly, you lose sight of what's possible. Letting go creates space, not just for something new, but for yourself. It allows you to reconnect with who you are, free from the weight of what's behind you. You don't have to forget the past or pretend it didn't matter. You simply have to allow it to live where it belongs, as part of your story, not the thing that defines it. Imagine the life you could live if you weren't carrying the weight of regret, fear, or unmet expectations. What would it feel like to move through the world lighter, freer, and more open to what comes next? That life is waiting for you. All it asks is that you take the first step and let go. The choice is yours. Are you ready to release the weight and become who you were always meant to be? If this video brought you clarity, inspiration, or helped you in any way, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And if you'd like to support our work even further, consider using the Super Thanks button. Your support means the world to us. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.